Good morning. Welcome to the TIPWeb-IM Campus Q&A session this morning. I'm Linda Andrews. I'll be your trainer today. We are going to be talking about campus processes and procedures to distribute textbooks and how to get to that point where you're ready to distribute. So I am going to go to our TIPWeb right now. Okay, so here is our TIPWeb homepage, and I want to make a note of our support center. One of the documents I will be actually going by to get to the distribution is from the support center. This is called the Beginning of the Year Handout and Checklist. So this document walks you through all the steps to get ready to distribute and also distributing materials to teachers and students. So this is a very good document. To get to this document, you just click on that support center on the home screen, and there is a search engine there at the support center, and you just navigate to that document. It's readily available for you to download. There's also a video there. Another really good document there is Help, I am a new campus coordinator. And again, those are accessed by just clicking on that support center button on your homepage. So to get started preparing for distributing, first we want to look at a couple of steps to kind of clean up your database from last year and our previous years. So the first step we're going to do, we're going to go down to Tools at the bottom of the navigation bar. If you are a campus TIPWeb administrator, you should see this closing button right here. If you don't see that closing button, there is probably either another person on your campus that is the campus administrator, or if not, if you are the assigned person, then you need to speak to your district textbook coordinator so that they can set you up to have access to that closing. So I'm going to open closing. Now normally when we think of closing, we think of closing out the end of the school year, and that is exactly what this area is for. However, we also, when we come back with the new school year, makes it a little bit easier to clean up some of those areas of our database. So the first thing we see is change student distributions to lost. We're going to say that we did that or somebody did that at the end of the school year last year. We're not going to do that today. And same for teachers. We can run closing for students and teachers. And what we're doing, we're cleaning up our database as in the students and teachers that are no longer on my campus. So first step would be to go to Remove Archive Book History. We have several items to choose from. Now, I failed to mention that when you come back in the fall to start getting ready for the new school history for students, this is going to remove all those collected transactions, not the students. These are those transactions that the textbooks were issued to the students or distributed to students and then collected. So I don't have any issue with those students, so that's what that first step is. The second step is the Remove Archive Cleared students, and these are those students that are no longer on my campus. So it's just a matter of going to this area. I do have a choice with if I want to select a certain grade. If I am coming back for the beginning of the school year, I'm just going to clear those all out. So as soon as I get here, I'm going to click on the Go. We do have the same procedures for teachers. In fact, we hear a lot from campuses that have not closed out, gone through the closing procedures, that they do see some of those teachers that are no longer there on the campus. So this is what that does. No choices here. I just go. Click on Go. And the same for the cleared teachers. I open it up and click on Go, and that's it. So that's going to clean out my database. When I come back in the morning, I'm going to see students and teachers that are on my campus right now. They're current students and teachers. So I'm ready to start clean with my distribution to those individuals. All right, so my next step in preparing to distribute, I'm going to go to Inventory and click on the Campus Requisitions. I could also access that from my home screen through the Quick Entry buttons. So what I'm doing here, during the summer, I have had requisitions created generally by the district coordinator. They have delivered those materials to my campus. And the next steps would have been, and we're going to say that you did this on the campus, you have opened up those boxes, pallets, however those materials got to your campus. You've opened those up. You've verified the numbers, the quantities of each textbook that you got. This year we had a new adoption for English, so there were a lot of materials delivered to campuses during the summer. So in order for me to actually accept those materials into my campus inventory, I'm going to have to receive those materials. After I have verified my deliveries, verified all the materials I've received, I'm going to go to my campus requisitions, find those requisitions or a requisition that have those materials on them. I'm going to go all the way across to the Receive button. This is a dolly with a box or boxes on it. It's hard to see, but that's my Receive button. So I'm going to click on that. So what I'm looking at, this particular requisition has just one item. I'm going to say this year, for sure, you probably have at least one requisition, probably more, that have multiple items. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go across here. I see what the item is, how many were ordered, how many were approved on the district level, but then I see the number of copies sent. That's what I'm concerned with right at this particular moment. I ordered 10, or 10 were ordered for my campus. 10 copies were approved, but on this requisition, only 5 copies were sent. So if I open that box that has this pick ticket attached to it somewhere or referring to it, I'm going to make sure that the quantities I received of this material is 5. If for some reason what I counted is not this number, I'm going to contact the district level coordinator and let them know how many copies I did receive, and they will work out with you how they're going to have that corrected. But if I found those 5 copies, I'm going to go across here to receive those items. I can receive each item individually if I have a number of items. I can still go to each item, or I can go to the button above the blue bar header that's Receive All, and I can click that button. I definitely just want to make sure that I've actually verified the shipments that I've gotten. Once I've received those requisitions, that inventory is in my campus inventory. If I forget to receive those materials when I get ready to distribute, I will get a message saying that there are not enough of those textbooks available to distribute. So this is a very important step. It's one that a lot of campus coordinators forget. So this is one of those steps I need to make a note of and remember to go here and receive all those shipments so I actually can have that inventory added to my campus inventory. All right, so we've received our materials. So far we've cleaned up our database as far as students and teachers. We've received our materials on our campus, that is made the inventory available to distribute. So now there's just a couple of more steps to go through to prepare for my distribution. I have on my textbooks, I have barcode labels identifying the textbook with the ISBN and an accession number. So I have 2 barcodes on that textbook itself. There is another barcode identifier that I need, and that's going to be the individual barcode label or the barcode label for the individuals I am distributing to. So that's what we're going to look at now. In order to get those individual barcode labels or barcodes so that I can distribute, I'm going to go to my reports and print out those barcode list. Sorry. So I have 3 choices here, and the choices I make here are dependent on how am I distributing textbooks. If I'm distributing to students, say at registration or in a group, or actually if they're coming to me but I just want a very simple list, I can print out this student listing with barcodes. And you notice it gives me the information here at the bottom for this barcode report. I can filter my list perhaps by grade level. If it is at registration, that would probably be one way I'd want to filter this report, by grade level. And a very simple filter here, the grade level. And then I'm going to click on the scroll, my print button. And what I see, this is grade 10 students on my campus, and they are in an alphabetical list. I've got their names, so I don't have to wonder who it is. I've got the name, and I've got that student ID. The student ID does come from your student information system. So any other area where that student ID is used to identify that student, it's going to be from this ID and or this barcode, okay? So I am ready to distribute to the grade 10 students because I have a list of those students. Now I see that I've got 27 pages here, and this is just that grade 10. So I need to keep in mind, how am I printing out these barcodes for the students? Make it easy on me. I need to determine, that's one of those things I need to determine, how am I distributing? Okay, so I've got the student list for the 10th grades, alphabetical list. If I have, perhaps I have a small enough high school or middle school that I don't have so many students that I feel the need to filter, I can print out that full report just by clicking on that scroll. And again, that's an alphabetical listing of the students on my campus. So, however I decide to print out this report, if I print out the student listing with barcodes, I have an alphabetical listing of all the students on my campus. Once I print this out, if I have a notebook and some of those protector sheets or sheet protectors, I can slip these report sheets into that. I've got my notebook started. So I'm ready to distribute or collect books for the rest of the school year. So that's the student listing with barcodes, and here I see this is all of my students. I've got 123 pages. So there are a number of students. If I don't distribute to students, I don't need to print that barcode report out. If I distribute to students by classroom, I can print out the class roster with barcodes. If I were doing this, I would probably fill up a cart with books to go down a certain hallway or certain classrooms. I would fill up that cart with my laptop, my barcode list for the students, and the textbooks themselves. Or if they are coming to me at the book room, but they're coming by classroom, this would be a helpful report as well, class roster with barcodes. It does require a little bit of thought ahead of time, because I need to know what teacher has what, or I need to know where I'm going to start and how I'm going to proceed. Let me say it that way. So what I'm doing is, with your student and teacher import, we also have some other things that are imported. So one of those things is the course. I can filter this class roster with barcodes by that course ID. I can filter by the grade, homeroom, teacher last name. So that is what I'm going to choose right now, the teacher last name. And we're going to look at Miss Adcock's classes. And we want to select the course she's teaching. We're going to leave it starts with. And we're going to have one more filter. I'm going to click on that and to the right, and I'm going to select a period. And this is going to be second period. So I've got three filters. I'm identifying that teacher, what period she has this class, and the course ID. And then I'm going to click on the scroll button. All right, so here is Miss Adcock's second period German 2 class. And this is a list of all of those students that are in this class. So if I were to print the class roster barcodes, I would have a number of barcode reports because I'm going to have a number of different classes. So again, to me, this particular barcode report requires a little forethought. I need to determine what teacher I'm going to start with, what course maybe, what period. But it is a very helpful barcode report if that is how you are distributing materials. I'm distributing to students by classroom. If I distribute to teachers, I'm going to click on the teacher listing with barcodes. With barcodes, I do have a filter available. Here I have the available filters. Unless I have a huge campus, I'm going to just print that full report for my teachers. because I'm going to need all of my teachers to distribute those teacher editions, or also to distribute classroom sets. So here's my teacher listing with barcodes. If you just distribute to teachers, this is what you want. You can filter it, of course. You can do some sorting, but I have a list of all of my teachers with those barcodes. Again, once I get this printed, I can slip it into that sheet protector pages and in my notebook, and I'm ready to either distribute or collect throughout the school year. Okay, so while we're in the reports, let's go ahead and make sure that we don't still have some distributions out there that we're not aware of. Perhaps someone didn't collect materials at the end of the school year. So I have several reports I can look at to determine that. I can print out the campus distributions by title report. And I'm going to filter by the distribution, the status of distribution. That's going to be my transaction type. If materials are still distributed, I need to collect those materials before I start distributing for the new school year. So this is one of the reports I can print out and refer to determine if those materials are still distributed on my campus. And my report is it's going to be a large one here. So it's going to take a minute. Okay, here's my report, broken down by the textbook title, and I also have a list of all of the students and the teachers. If I have some of those distributed to teachers, they will be in a separate list. But I have a list of all the books, again, a large document, but if you have, if some of your materials have been collected, this document will not be that large, of course. But I know exactly who those materials have been distributed to, and I know that I need to put those textbooks in the status of collected. And I also need to make sure that those books are in my book room, available to the actual textbooks themselves to be able to distribute those materials. Okay, one of the other reports I can print is going to be my student textbook status report. Again, I'm filtering for those materials that are distributed. I need to know if there's any material still distributed to students. Okay, so here's my list. Again, if materials have been collected on your campus, you should not have a huge list here. If you have a huge list, you know that nobody collected those materials at the end of the school year. So that just makes sure that I know that my materials are ready to distribute by checking the status on those textbooks. All right, so at this point, I am ready to begin the distribution process. I can access that in two different ways. Under my quick links, there we see that requisition quick link. I also have a quick entry quick link, or I can navigate to the automation section and then click on the quick entry there. I'm going to click on the quick entry at my quick links. All right, so when we're talking distribution, we have several types of data entry. I can collect by accession at the end of the school year, or maybe the end of the semester, or maybe even the end of the 9 weeks. When you get ready to collect materials, if you have distributed by that accession number, the process to collect is very simple. I'm going to select that, collect by accession, and then click on Go. And from then on, it's a matter of scanning that accession number on the back of each textbook. And that's going to collect those materials that are distributed to either students or teachers. The next area we look at is student distribution. And as I look over here in the center, I have several buttons to choose from. I have Remember ID, Remember ISBN, Remember ID and SBN, and then Do Not Remember Values. So if I want to make my quick entry as quick as possible, I'm going to choose the area that's going to fit my distribution. So if I'm distributing to students, and say I am distributing at registration, each student is going to come to me with their schedule, and I'm going to pull those books for that student. I'm going to pull all of those books. So this student has several textbooks. I'm going to remember that student ID because I'm going to be using it several times here. So then I'm going to click on Go. So when I get ready to scan that ID, I've got my barcode list that I printed out earlier. I'm going to scan that first student once I know who that student is. Once I scan that ID on the right here, it's going to start a book history list for this student. In this case, this student has already had some books checked out to her. My next, my cursor immediately goes down to the ISBN. So I'm going to look on the back of that first textbook, find that barcode label, and find that ISBN at the top of that barcode label and scan that ISBN. I see that immediately the cursor goes to the accession number. So I'm going to scan that accession number at the bottom of the barcode. And I see on the screen here, first of all, I've got that textbook started on the list here to the left. This is what I'm distributing today. I have available right here, if I have a printer available to me right now, I can print out today's textbook receipt for all the materials distributed today. I have a student textbook receipt. If I print this student textbook receipt, it's going to be all of the distributions that have occurred for this student this year. And I also have a student transaction receipt. That would include any collections, any charges paid. If I print this out, if I know the student has some of those kinds of transactions. Each one of these reports is also available in the report section of my TIPWeb. So I am at the next textbook. So I'm going to find that barcode label on that textbook again, find that ISBN and scan that, and then the accession number. And I see the book added at the bottom of both of my lists, and I also see that the cursor has gone up to the next ISBN. So once I get everything laid out and ready to go, I am ready to distribute to students, and the process is very, very quick. That's why we call it quick entry. It makes it a very quick process. Okay, so I'm going to reset with my blue arrows. That brings me back to my Choose Type of Data Entry button. I'm still looking at student distribution, but instead of distributing more than one textbook to a student, I'm going to be going from classroom to classroom. And each classroom will be the same textbook but different students. So this time I'm going to remember that ISBN. Click on Go. So the first button I see here is my ISBN. So I'm going to find that barcode label on the textbook. It scans that and brings that up. And then I have the student ID. So I have my book history started here for Elizabeth Brock. So then I'm going to scan that accession number. So I see that the cursor has gone back up to the ID number that's for the next student. But I also see that Elizabeth Brock, she has, I've got a list started for her on both sides here. She had no previous book history, so now I'm starting her book history, and I'm starting her list of items that I'm checking out today. So once I've scanned that next student, I'm ready for that next accession number. Okay, so I see the student has changed, but I've still got my list of items that I'm checking out or distributing today. But I also see over here to the right Mandy Bright's book history list. So again, that process can go very quickly. If I identify how I am distributing those materials and select the appropriate buttons to remember here. Teacher distributions, I'm ready for teacher distributions. If I am distributing classroom sets, I want to remember that teacher ID, but I also want to remember that ISBN because I'm distributing to one teacher multiple copies of the same textbook. So we even have a button for that. I just click that Remember ID and ISBN. Click on that Go. And first I'm going to scan that teacher ID. And here's Mr. Hytrek's book history. I'm going to scan the ISBN for that teacher and then that accession number. I see my list started on the left. And so I also see my cursor has gone right to the next accession number. So I'm just going to turn those books, if I've got my barcode labels on the back of the book, I'm going to turn that book over and just go from accession number to accession number until I have distributed the classroom set that goes to Mr. Hytrek, this particular teacher. So that is my distribution by a teacher distribution, remembering those accession numbers. I do have a teacher distribution without accession numbers. Generally speaking, this is how we distribute consumable materials. And I know a lot of districts do not even, or a lot of campuses do not even distribute those materials through TIPWeb, but if you did, this is the way to do it. I'm going to remember that teacher ID and Go. So scan that ID. Going to find that textbook. So then what I have, instead of an accession number, I have the number of copies. So I'm going to put that 25, the quantity I'm distributing. Click on Save, and I see my list over here that is started for those elements of literature. And over here in my list of materials I'm distributing, I've just got the number of the quantity here. So I have a number of options to distributing materials, which means I have a number of options as far as tracking those materials. If I need to collect those at the end of the school year or the semester, I'm going to click collect by accession, and then go back and gather those books. Once I collect that or scan that accession, I get the book history of the person that had that material distributed to them. And I see on the left the receipt started for today's collection. Okay? So that is my distribution and collection. So we talked about reports. When I get ready to print out those receipts, if I have distributed to teachers and students, I did not print those receipts as I went through the distribution. Here's where I can come back and print those receipts. I have in my list a student textbook receipt. I can filter that, or if I'm going to, well, actually, that is my choice. I can filter. So I'm going to filter by the grade level. You see I have a number of filtering choices. I'm going to select the grade level. And I want, now this could be by the date. If I'm printing out all of the receipts for the distributions today, I can select a date. If I want to select the transaction type, if I want to just get a receipt for all of those distributions today, I can select that. And click on my scroll. Alrighty, here is my student textbook receipt. It is addressed to my parents, the parents of this student. The address is one of the pieces of information that come from that student information systems. I've got each textbook listed with the ISBN and the accession number and the price, along with the total price in this little box. And I also have a signature line. This is where I'm going to pass along that accountability. I want to get any students that I've distributed to, I want to get that signature, send that information to that parent, and the parent knows exactly what materials that student has. That helps to encourage the parents to encourage the students to take care of those materials, because we know that those textbooks these days just get more and more expensive. So my next receipt is going to be my teacher receipts. I also want to print them. If I'm distributing to teachers, I want to pass along that accountability to them as well. I have the same option here. I'm going to filter the teacher textbook receipts. And actually, let me go back out here. and I'm just going to click on that scroll because I'm going to print all of my teacher textbook receipts. And of course, that's going to take a few minutes. Okay, here we go. Same information. I've got my teacher, the classes that they teach. I've got the textbook, the number of copies distributed, and if I use those accession numbers, I've got those listed. If I just distributed by quantity, I'm only going to see that number of copies. So I will see that on those that I distributed without the accession numbers. And again, I have that signature here. If I get that from the teacher, I would probably go ahead and give a copy to the teacher. I'm sure that most of them would want that. And again, I'm passing along that accountability. There is one more report I want to show you. That is the Teacher Classroom Set Worksheet. This is if I distribute classroom sets to teachers, and this might happen in the intermediate schools, grade 5, 6, maybe middle school. I'm distributing classroom sets, but from time to time, I know that some of my teachers actually let students take books home or out of the classroom even. So I have the ability to give them the ability to record those situations. The Teacher Classroom Set Worksheet. There we go. Okay, this is Miss Adcock's German 1 class. All of the materials that were distributed to Miss Adcock for that German 1 class, I've got the accession numbers listed here. I've got a place for the student ID, the student name, and that student signature. So even if I've distributed to those teachers, I want to make them, I want to make it available to them to track any of those materials that they are letting the students remove from the classroom. Okay, so that is pretty much everything we're covering today as far as preparing for distribution and the distribution process, recording those reports or printing those reports that I need. I would encourage you to check out the Support Center and check out those documents that we talked about. You also, I wanted to remind you, we have a phone line and an email line for you to contact the Hayes support team. They're always available for you. They're very responsive, and they will take care of you, answer quickly, and stay with you long enough to get your situation resolved. During the busiest time of the year, it may take a few minutes, but they will respond to you and will help you with your situation. Thank you so much for joining the training today, and we'll see you at the next Q&A. Thank you.